Hey guys, it's Eric, and today I got a quick unboxing, or probably go long on this one, but this is the Mammotion Yuka. Now, I've already reviewed the Mammotion Luba 2, which you can kind of see back there. That is a awesome robotic lawnmower, but it's not without its cons. This is definitely a step down. It's more affordable, but also has a couple extra features that one does not have that this one does. So I'm really excited to check this out. I don't have all the pieces here. This has like a bag. For instance, this has a leaf and grass pickup bag. It's an additional accessory, but it also empties itself, which is really, really cool. So I can't wait to check that out. But today it's just going to be the Yuka all by itself. Now you might be seeing me sweat a little bit. It is blistering hot out here right now, even though the sun is about to go down, but it's in the middle of the summer and it's still like 90 degrees and the humidity is off the chart. So plus me being a bigger guy, hey, we sweat when we're outside, and this thing is too big to bring in. So without further ado, let's jump into this box. Now for full disclosure, Mammotion did send this out to me. Some people will call the company Mammotion, some people call it Mammotion. I'm not sure how you really pronounce it, but I like to call it Mammotion, and I think that's how you really pronounce it. But everyone does something a little bit different, and that's okay. Maybe we can get a representative from Mammotion to really tell us how to pronounce it. All right, this thing's pretty big. I don't want to cut myself. There's number 1 and number 2. Pretty sweet. So first thing, this is the base. I'm going to take out plastic and show you what this looks like. Now this looks very similar to the Luba, but I believe it is totally a different base. You can't intertwine them. Now I'm not quite sure, but I think you can use the same RTK station, which they include one in here also. But I think if you already have one like I do, you can go ahead and use that for 2 different mowers. And speaking of RTK station, here it is right here. And this looks pretty identical. I don't think they made any changes here. All right, we got our first box. I bet you this is a charger. That it is. Now, don't quote me on this, but this charger plug actually looks a little different. Maybe it is and maybe it's not. It actually looks different than the Luba. So you have a normal North American outlet on that side, but this actually looks different than what I remember on the Luba. So there's one power supply. Here is a pack of extra blades and screws. Put that right there. A little piece of plastic, not quite sure what that is, but I definitely do not want to lose that. And this one says accessory kit. Okay, we have some type of power extension wire. And if this is like the Luba, you can power both the RTK station and the mower both at the mower station, or you can have a separate power supply which they include for the RTK station, one for the lawnmower power station and then one for the RTK station, and I believe they include both of them. And talking about that, here is the second one. There it is. And here's a little screwdriver. You do have to put a couple things together. There's a screwdriver. There's one other thing in this box. And these are the stakes for the lawnmower power station, just to make sure that's not moving when the lawnmower comes and goes off of this. All right, got one more box up here. This just feels like paperwork, so I'm not going to open that up. And then you have a pole. This is for the RTK station. You have a second pole. Now, if you want to mount this to your house, to the roof of your house, which is the most ideal place to put this because it needs to see 360 degrees of the sky, and it really can't be next to your house, it can't be next to a tree. They say if your house is 20 feet tall, it needs to be 20 feet away from the house. And if you have a tree that's, say, 30 feet or whatever, it could be 10 feet, it has to be 30 feet away from the tree, just so it has full access to the skies. Unfortunately, the hard part about that, you might have a place in your yard where you have that, but you need to have power. So most ideal place to install this is on your roof line. That way you can run a wire and it has full access to 360 degrees of the sky. That's probably the biggest hiccup I've had thus far with the Luba 2, simply because I still have not mounted this to the roof. So it's not in the ideal place, and if it gets cloudy or the trees blow in the wrong way or something's in the way, sometimes the Luba 2 would just stop working. Sometimes they will go for a while and then restart. And what I've noticed is when I go into the app after I notice that it hasn't moved in a while, is that the RTK station does not have access. It shows you its signal strength of the skies, and it doesn't have a good signal. So the Luba 2 is definitely not perfect. There's definitely issues with it, especially if you don't have the RTK station in its right place, which I think should be mounted to your roof line, which is an additional accessory that you have to buy the mount for that. You don't need the pole for that. You gotta get the mount, or you can jerry rig it, but it cannot move. It cannot move 6 inches. It can't move probably a foot, probably not even an inch. If it does, that's how far off your lawnmower is also. So it has to be a fixed position. It cannot move whatsoever. And if it does, you have to remap everything, which mapping is not hard. It's just a little bit more time than you probably want to spend. You actually have to walk around the perimeter of your yard. And once this thing moves, you have to do all the different zones all over again. So if you have a lot of different zones, if you have a half acre to an acre like I have, that's going to take you a good half hour to an hour to do all that. But I've rambled on enough. I see there is one more box under the poles over here. So let's see what else we have. Oh, this is the stake for the poles. And now, dun 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 dun, I should get a closer up video. You guys ready? Dun 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 dun. There it is. The Yuka. Pretty sweet. Alright. Time to take this thing out. Alright, here we go. It's actually not too heavy. It's a little bit lighter than the Luba. And then we got one more piece of styrofoam. One more piece of styrofoam, and this is the second half of the base station. Oh, this one actually comes out from the top. I could have left that styrofoam in there. Okay, so we don't need this box anymore. I'm going to open this up. Like I said, this base station, or charging station I should probably say, for the lawnmower is different than the Luba 2. It would be nice if they had the same one, but I can tell already that this is totally different. So this will somehow connect or snap onto that bottom piece right there. All right, there we go. Got it all set up. Now this has a few different things I noticed off the bat. This has the bigger wheels in the back. This one is not all-wheel drive like the Luba 2 is. It's only rear-wheel drive, but it still has the aggressive wheels, so it kind of digs into the ground and it gets a better grip on the ground. I know this doesn't do as well on hills as the Luba 2, but it's going to be really nice to see if this can handle hills at all, and I think it can. And then underneath you have that single wheel that just kind of spins around and goes in any direction. There's no power or direction to this wheel at all. And then it has 6 blades or 2 different discs here, just like the Luba 2. But I don't think this cuts as wide as the Luba 2, but it's still pretty wide, which I'll put on the screen how wide this is. And then on top you can see this new design. It's not as sporty as the Luba 2, but still pretty cool. I do notice there's a dial on top. This is how tall it's gonna cut or how short. Unlike the Luba 2, which you can set inside the app, here on the Yuka, you have to set manually with this dial. And then just like the Luba, you have a stop button, you have a couple play buttons, and looks like you have one extra button. I think the Luba 2 has 3 buttons. This one has 4. And then there's some type of port back here. I'm not quite sure what that is for just yet. We'll have to find out, but probably want to make sure that stays covered so water doesn't get in there. Then you have your water sensor, so if it detects rain, it'll go back and charge up. And then this kind of looks like a camera. It's kind of weird that they would put a camera on top like this. I'll definitely have to research that and see what that's all about. And then on front, you have a bunch of sensors and cameras. And what's really cool, it has the nice little wiper. Now I'm not quite sure if that wiper's automatic. Maybe it goes every few minutes. Maybe it's something within the app you have to do. Not quite sure how that wiper works, but that's really nice because I do have to clean the sensors on the Luba 2 all the time, and having something like this is definitely a huge plus. And then you have bumpers on here. Obviously, if this bumps into anything, it's going to stop and go a different direction. But this thing is pretty smart just with the cameras. We're going to put that to the test in the full review, but from my knowledge, this has pretty much all the same sensors and detectors, very similar to the Luba 2. But what makes this different than the Luba 2? Obviously, its design is different, it's cheaper, but this also has a accessory where you can get this bag on the back where it actually pick up leaves and grass, and then once it gets full, it can go to a certain designated area and empty that out automatically. And I just think that's really, really cool. Now, unfortunately, I don't have that accessory yet. I can't wait to get it and put this thing to a full review. All in all, this is pretty sweet. It's definitely different for a different person than the Luba 2. If you have a lot of hills or you want something a little bit more high end, that is definitely the one to get with the all-wheel drive. That thing can get through pretty much anything, where this one might get stuck on, rocks and potholes, where if you do have that stuff in your yard, definitely get the Luba 2. But if you want a couple extra accessories like that bag that I was talking about, and you have a pretty flat yard, we're definitely going to check this out and see if it's right for you. But this was fun to unbox it, see what it comes with, show you guys what it looks like and what my initial thoughts are after I've already had the Luba 2. So I hope this video was helpful. I'll be leaving links down below. We can get more information about this just in case you can't wait for the full review. And I will see you guys on the next video.